Hey guys, it's Lou. I'm back for a video today. Today I'm going to be doing a contest video, and it's for a relatively new channel for me, for a guy named Julian. Is it Julian? Yeah, Julian Lopez. Sorry, Julian. Don't know why I said Juan. Julian Lopez, and it's Julian's 100 subscribers contest. So congratulations, Julian, on the 100 subs. Like I said, it's his channel is a relatively new channel to me. I found out about it through watching a video through Andy's Vinyl Den through his channel, and I really liked the idea of the contest. It's basically 5 questions that Julian is posting. And to pick albums for each of those 5 questions. So I thought that was pretty interesting, pretty neat. And so here we go. So the first question, Julian wanted us to choose an album from our childhood. And I'm going to cheat on some of these questions and pick more than one. So one of my earliest memories of getting seriously into music was probably around when I was 10, when me and my friends started listening to music, and some of the bands that we got into early on, and these albums kind of represent that. But I almost forgot. I wanted to show what I'm playing in the background. I don't know if you can hear it. Don't know if you can make that out. That's a record that I just got today. It's for the Chris Robinson Brotherhood. Chris Robinson, of course, being the former lead singer of the Black Crowes, and this was his first, I guess you could call it solo, maybe not first solo album, because he did have an album out before this, but this is certainly the first album by the Chris Robinson Brotherhood, and this is a great album. It's a 2-record set, nice gatefold and pictures, and I highly recommend this one to Lisa because it's got a definite Grateful Dead vibe about this in the playing and just the song structures and all of that. Some nice extended, long, sort of jammy kind of numbers. The first song actually that's playing right now is like 12 minutes long. It's the whole first side of the record, but it's some great stuff. It's not as hard rock as some of the Black Crowes stuff, but certainly the vocals are as good as Chris Robinson's ever had on record. And if you like, again, the jammy aspects of the Grateful Dead and that type of thing. He's got a guitar player named Neil Cassell, I think is how you pronounce his name. Fantastic guitar player. And the keyboard player, I think his name is Andy McDougall. Could be getting that wrong. Those 2 guys, to me, they really shine. And I've heard some stuff before getting this album. That's why I purchased it. But it's really excellent album. Highly recommended. So getting back to the contest. The first question from Julian is the name an album from your childhood. So one of the bands that me and my friends first got into and played a lot of is ACDC. And the album that probably best represents ACDC and what we were listening to at the time, this is around 1980 or so, is Back in Black. Classic album, which I'm sure everybody has. We were around that time, there was a lot of ACDC. It was during an era where bands were putting out albums quite frequently, pretty close to every year, if not every year, and sometimes more than one a year. So we were listening to stuff like Dirty Deeds, Big Balls, Highway to Hell, stuff like that. Those were all, big albums and big songs around that time. And then this album came out and just kind of blew the sales like through the roof for them. So one album from my childhood, Back in Black. Another band that we listened to a lot is Rush and the album Moving Pictures. Tom Sawyer was a huge song for us at the time. you had around that time, they actually had here in Canada a concert from this tour broadcast on one of the major stations, CBC. I think it's actually it might be the concert that's represented on the Exit Stage Left album. I could be wrong, but it was one of those things where at the time when something like that was on TV, everybody watched it, and then the next day at school, everybody was talking about it. And so songs from this album, Limelight was another huge song that everybody liked. And I remember Xanadu from that concert, even though that's not from this album. I remember that being like a major, one of the better songs that they played live in concert at that time. So a classic, Rush Moving Pictures. I've said this before, side one of this is one of the best sides any band will have on record. So you've got Tom Sawyer, Red Barchetta, YYZ, Canadian, not YYZ, and Limelight. It doesn't get better than that. Those 4 songs, what an amazing side of music. Okay, the second question was, show a record that some people might be surprised that you have in your collection. For this, what I traditionally have not really shown a lot of, in fact, I don't think I've shown any albums that are, maybe one that I've shown in my vinyl tag way back when, albums that are either hip-hop or have some kind of rapping on them. It's not that I dislike that genre of music, I just don't have a lot of records from that genre, so I don't show a lot. So one album that I think people might be surprised is this album, which is by the artist and producer Madlib, and this is Shades of Blue. So this is basically Madlib, who has done some beats and added some rapping from various artists, but also using samples from classic jazz records from the Blue Note discography. So I do like hip-hop. I have some Roots albums and some other hip-hop, but I love jazz, and when you put jazz samples to a hip-hop beat, I just love that kind of stuff, and that's what this album is exactly. And the back's made to look a little sort of distressed and so forth. 2-record set, but not a gatefold. That's something I don't like. But if you like your Blue Note jazz and you also like hip-hop beats, this is an album for you, highly recommended. Sticking with the rap, excuse me, the rap genre, I'm also a fan of the Beastie Boys, more of a casual fan. I don't have individual albums, but I have this greatest hits set, again, a double record set. This is probably all the Beastie Boys that I need for my collection, but this is a really good one. All the big songs are here. And then a third album that, again, people might be surprised that I have, and this is an album going back to the 80s, is George Michael, Faith. This, of course, was George Michael's first solo album after leaving Wham. Some of the songs I could do without, like I Want Your Sex and Monkey and those kind of songs, but there's a few songs on here that I really like. I really like the title track, Faith. And Father Figure's a really good song that I like. Some of the more ballady type stuff, like One More Try and Kissing a Fool, are the songs that I really, really enjoy on there. This is really my only George Michael. My wife's got some old Wham records from back in the day. Those kind of stay in the basement. The next question was, Julian wanted us to show a favorite live album, and I've actually done a video before where I listed my top 10 live albums with honorable mentions, and I didn't want to repeat anything off that, and there's just so many great live albums out there that I could show. I could do so many videos of ones that I like, and these particular 2 that I'm showing today stood out for me. They're both live albums. 2 of the live albums that I first I would say, first heard and seriously got into. And this would have been back around 1980, 1981. One of the albums, and I've commented on other people's videos, like Shannon D's video, and maybe James Griffith's recent Genesis videos. Three Sides Live. This was probably the first live album that I seriously got into, and this was really my introduction into Genesis. This was from, I believe, the Abacab tour, so it has songs from Abacab, Duke, and they even go back and do some older, or at least one old Peter Gabriel song, In the Cage, which is from the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway album. But this is an amazing album. This is Genesis as a trio, supplemented with Chester Thompson on drums and Daryl Sturmer on guitar and bass. But this is a great Genesis album. And as the title implies, 3 sides are live material, and the 4th side is studio material with, I guess, the single Paper Late was probably the biggest single from the studio cuts. But the live album is just unbelievable. Some great songs on here: Abacab, Dodo, Duchess, Behind the Lines, Follow You, Follow Me. A fantastic live album. Today I probably prefer Seconds Out over 3 Sides Live, but this truly was the first live album that I got into seriously. Another great favorite live album of mine, which its only fault is that it's only a single LP, and it's actually way too short, but what's on there is absolute killer material. One of my favorite artists, Bob Marley, and this is Bob Marley live. Only 7 songs on this, but the definitive version of No Woman No Cry is on this. Even though that song appeared on Natty Dread in studio form, the version that everybody knows is the version from this live album. And another great favorite Bob Marley track of mine, Trenchtown Rock. I absolutely love that. It's the song that has the line, one good thing about music, when it hits you feel no pain. And it's just, what can you say about Bob Marley? Just an amazing artist who I love so much that when my daughter was born, my daughter's 16 now, when she was born, we gave her the middle name of Marley. Not spelt Marley as in Bob Marley, but Marley, M-A-R-L-E-A. But really it was out of my love for Bob Marley's music. Other great songs on here, you have a fantastic version of I Shot the Sheriff and Get Up, Stand Up. This is just an essential live album. Bob Marley did release Babylon by Bus, which was a double record set, so I like the fact that that's a double record, but I think song for song, this is the Bob Marley live album to get. Julian's next question was for us to show an album that we like by an artist that was part of a band and then went solo. So as most of you know, my favorite band of all time is The Police. And when The Police broke up after the Synchronicity album, Sting went solo, made a fantastic debut solo record with Dream of the Blue Turtles. But my favorite Sting solo record is his second solo record, Nothing Like the Sun. We Will Be Together was the, I guess, big single off of this, but it's really far from the best track on here. You have one of my favorite tracks, Sting solo tracks, Englishman in New York is on here. You just have some great songs. Be Still My Beating Heart, The Lazarus Heart, Fragile was another big success from this album. This is Sting's best solo album in my opinion. He still had 2 members of his band from the original, the first solo album, Dream of the Blue Turtles. You had Branford Marsalis on sax on here, and the late Kenny Kirkland is on this album, and those have been 2 of the finest musicians that Sting has ever played with. And lastly, Julian wanted us to recommend an album and probably something that maybe is a little bit lesser known. Julian on his channel, which I didn't mention off the top, I guess he's predominantly a metal guy, and so I'm going to recommend something that I think metal fans would like, even though this is not metal. I think this is sort of in that indie hard rock category. Definitely some amazing searing guitar playing, and the band is Dinosaur Jr. This is Dinosaur Jr.'s album called Farm. It was one of their reunion albums. They've since made 4 reunion albums with the original lineup, more than they made back when that original lineup was together, which they made 3 back then. But I think this is the best of the reunion albums. It was the second album when they reunited. But the guitar playing by Jay Mascis, who's the lead singer and guitar player, it's a trio, is just unbelievable. He is, in my opinion, one of the best guitarists out there. Again, some heavy guitar with a lot of feedback, and definitely Dinosaur Jr. is probably I've seen Dinosaur Jr. once and Jay Mascis solo once, and definitely the Dinosaur Jr. concert was the second loudest concert I've ever been to. It's definitely one that you need earplugs. The loudest one, which can never be beat, was the My Bloody Valentine reunion. That was just an unreal 15 minutes towards the end of the set of a song called, I think it's called Apocalypse. Just sort of ear-shattering stuff. The Dinosaur Jr. concert was a close second, but those 2 concerts will forever be the loudest concerts ever. So this is recommended for you, Julian. So that's it. That's my video, Julian. Again, great contest questions, and again, congratulations, man, on those 100 subs. And for those of you that haven't seen Julian's channel, head on over there, and I think you'll like what you see. Thanks a lot. Bye.